of course, they're doing target selection.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want to destroy the British public's sense of pride, you can't do it so long as Churchill stands.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So get Churchill. So long as Abraham Lincoln is revered, you can't destroy the American people's pride. So you got to get Abraham Lincoln, because if you take out Lincoln and you take out all the founding fathers, you've basically taken out the ability of an American to feel pride in the past. And that's what they're doing.
And this also goes back thousands of years in the sense of desanctifying sacred spaces from your opponents. If I go into your church and set on fire, that's one thing, right? But if I go to your church and I pee on your holy book and I take down your gods and I desecrate them in front of you, that is so much more emotional. And it's so much more demonstration of my strength. And my ferocity, and of course that's going to make people do a second take, because now they're scared. If you can take down my God and my faith, or what I hold sacred, not a literal God obviously, then no one can protect me.
Exactly. If they can pull down all of the statues, if they can deface everyone, first of all, then nothing's safe,
right? And
second, they can make us believe anything next. That's, I have this section in the book about, okay, so we've done this remorseless, everybody who lived in the past happened not to have our views in 2022 about race and so on. Amazing. Who'd have thought? The Washington Post attacked Aristotle the other year, calling him the grandfather of scientific racism. And they complained because Aristotle, writing 2.5 millennia ago, didn't have the 2020s view on a range of things, including slavery. I mean, who could have thunk it? So that's one thing, is they've done this to all these people. But here you go. Who don't they do it to? That's why I have a very fun section in the book about Karl Marx, because one of the things I decided to do was, let's apply this evenly then. So if you go through Karl Marx's correspondence, he's an incredibly racist man. He consistently uses the N-word, usually hyphenates it to Jew, because he's also very, very anti-Semitic. In fact, when I was doing the audiobook for the War in the West, I got to this bit where I said to the people in the production thing, I said, look, I mean, this bit is so racist, I can't read it out loud, but it's Karl Marx.
Right.
And I thought, on the one hand, it would have been great, because if anyone had come for me in a sort of Rogan-esque fashion and said, you once used the N-word, I could say, well, I was just quoting Karl Marx.
Right.
But the point is that he was profoundly racist in his public and private statements. He was terrible on slavery, terrible on colonialism. And since this has come out, and since the serials of my book have been published and people have started to read it, Marxists have been saying, well, he was a man of his time. Oh, I see. Unlike everyone else.
But that's not true. I got to interrupt you. That's not true. It is not at the time a place that kind of virulence was. It may have been acceptable, but it wasn't the median.
It was uncommon for the time, definitely. I mean, Marx was far, far more racist than Thomas Jefferson or David Hume. David Hume, one of the great figures of the Scottish Enlightenment, currently is sitting on the naughty step. Historically, having had all of his reputation defamed in recent years because of one footnote in one essay, which is racist. And every Hume scholar knows about it. And it's a bit strange because it seems to go counter to so much of the rest of his writings. But, we don't go to Hume for his views on race in that one footnote. We go to him for what enormous work he did to sort of try to take magical thinking out of society and get us towards a more rationalist frame of mind. But, as I say, Karl Marx, they don't do this with. And the other thing, by the way, I've had in recent days from various Marxists is, well, we don't go to Karl Marx for his views on these things. We go to him for his economics theory. We go, well, we don't go to Thomas Jefferson for advice on what to do with slaves.
Right.
I mean, it's so completely obvious when they don't do it to certain people what they're actually doing.
One of the theses that you are best known for, and I want you to state in your own words because I don't want to misquote you, is basically the idea that as societies get confused about gender and sexuality, that tends to correlate with their collapse. What am I? Do you know what I'm referring to? How would you phrase that?
I have said it, but I'm not really the person responsible for that insight.
Okay.
I sort of pushed it out there, but it's actually Camille Paglia who suggested it first.
Oh, I love her. She's my
I
idol.
know. I want to give her credit. I quote her in Madness of Crowds for this observation and carry it a bit further. I do think there's a lot in it. I do think the whole sort of erasure of sexes and the turning of sexes into 100 genders is a form of deliberate mass confusion. I mean, maybe it starts off generically and then becomes pushed by bad faith actors. I think it's the same thing with the sort of phenomena I'm writing about in The War on the West. I mean, what I was describing when I was doing that about sexuality and the madness of crowds was to describe why we were going madder than we needed to go, and that it was because we were being told to believe things which were untrue, such as, that the idea that that there's no such thing as sex, it's gender assigned at birth. The rather bigoted delivery room nurse decided that I was a boy, and as a result I can never give birth to a child. That sort of thing. That's deliberately deranging. I mean, it's caught on because it's deranging, and the people who push that nonsense. Well, my favorite one was a story the other day in the British press about a woman described who used a wheelie bin as a sex toy and stuck her penis into it repeatedly in public down a back alley somewhere in Sheffield. It wasn't the world's most romantic assignation ever, but the point is that everything about it is like almost deliberately designed in the headline to piss you off. It's designed to say, like, what do you mean, pointing to the fact it's her penis? Same thing with the swimmers stuff. I just think it's, that dude who wins all the women's races now in American college sports, apparently, still has his meat and two veg, as we say in the UK, and apparently still dates girls. But you've got to, so basically a straight guy in everything apart from when he's swimming. The minute you throw him into a water, he becomes a woman. I just,
it's like Ariel, or in reverse, right?
I know, such a beautiful myth happening right in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with all this stuff of demeaning our history. I think it's deliberately deranging. I think it's a similar thing. You take away all of the things that the society believes they know, and you have a totally demoralized society. Take away the belief that the fundamental thing that children know from the beginning, boy or girl, is actually totally mysterious and impossible to discern, and you really have to do gender studies, and you have to send your children to kindergarten to be taught the gender fluidity or whatever, and that they might be a girl the next day, so one of the first things we know, boy or girl, is taken away, and then every story of your society that holds your society together,
right,
is also then taken away. I think these things are deliberate. They're deliberate attempts at mass demoralization of the public by incredibly bad faith actors.